Hello everyone, this is Blender Guppy. Welcome to another demo video for the random flow add-on, as well as the creative flow and the panel cutter. So in this video, I'm going to create relatively low to mid poly 3D asset, and then use the sort asset add-on, which will be in the creative bundle in the next update to arrange them in a 3D grid or in a grid arrangement, and then mark them as asset for later use using the asset browser. And we're also going to create the details using a destructive method, which means that the details or the randomized details will be incorporated or merged into the source mesh. So for the base model, I'm going to try and use 16 vertices instead of 32. So 16 when we use the default auto smooth and the creative flow and random flow is the lowest you can go without actually having one of the edges show up as a sharp edge cylinder. So for example, if I use 12 and use auto smooth, so you can see there's a sharp edge here and also a sharp edge there. So we're going to increase that. We're going to use 16 instead. This is, I think, the lowest we can go with an even number. That's going to be auto smooth. So why don't we use 14? You can use 14, but I just like to stick to 4s. So multiples of 4, so 4, 8, 12, 16, something like that. So 8, 16, 16, 32, and then 64. Okay. So what we're going to try is what I did with Patreon the other day. So I did 5 pieces, which is like an antenna model, which you can use from the asset browser and then just stick it to your spaceship model or something, or your 3D scene. And we're going to replicate that. Also, I'm going to show you what you can do to create the details without having to use the subdivision, or in this case, the cut parameters or the subdivision parameters. We're not going to increase the subdivision. Instead, we're going to use the actual geometry of the base mesh and create details, merge detail using the plate inset. So we can use random panels, but for this video, we're going to use plate inset instead. Okay. Okay, let's try and detail this. So when we use, or when any of the random operators are used, it needs selected faces for it to work. And when you increase the subdivision, it means that the randomizer will have more faces to play with, and therefore generate more detail instead of just using 0. So when using 0 subdivision in this case, for example, then there's not a lot of faces going on, and the randomizer cannot, of course, create patterns. You need to increase the resolution. So this is what's happening inside the script. The resolution is being increased, and all these faces are being used by the algorithm of the operator to create the randomized pattern. But since we're not going to use the subdivision, what we're going to do instead is provide the necessary resolution in the source mesh instead manually, not use any subdivision outside or inside the using the operator or inside the operator. So, for example, Control R to create edge loops and press 8. So that's probably just 8, and I'm going to kind of arrange the spacing to give the randomizer some different result instead of just dealing with evenly spaced faces. Okay, let's select the faces here. And we're not going to use symmetry. This is asymmetric. And let's include this as well. 3. And select all the faces inside this edge loop. So you can use select loop in a region and then go to face select mode, and then F9 or just Control I to invert. So what I did earlier was I said F9 because when you use the operation select loop in a region, and when you press F9 you can invert the operation here. But what I did earlier was when I use select loop in a region, I pressed 3, and that overlapped the undo or the redo panel of the previous action, which was the select loop in a region. And when you press F9, it's gone. So to invert the selection, I'll just use the Control I hotkey. Okay, now we're going to use the selected faces for the plate inset. So plate inset is the destructive operator, meaning that its result will be merged to the source mesh, unlike compared to the other random operators, which has toggles like merge, where you have to actually activate it for like random panels. You see here, you have merge panel. You actually have to toggle this on to merge the result of this operator to the source mesh. But on certain conditions, for example, if you use clear faces inner or outer, this will no longer work. Okay, let's use the plate inset, and I have a saved preset here, but we're just going to start with the operator defaults. So reverse is the percentage of the faces that are inserted out or into the mesh. So you can see here. So we're just going to use 25%, meaning that 25% of the faces will be inserted into the mesh rather than out. And edit the depth 0.01. Also edit the thickness. Something like that. And we have the margin, the outer and the inner. The margin type when you press outer. So this is the outer margin refers to the border of the selection, and the inner means the inner faces or the inner insetted faces or the face islands or inset face islands. And we have the margin type. When you use indent only, it means that the inner property or the inner margin will only work for the faces that are inserted into the mesh. So when I use indent only versus all and indent only. So in this case, we're going to use just indent only. In the next update, I'm going to rename this property to inner margin, because this refers only to the inner margin right here, just to make this property more transparent, or the functionality more obvious. Okay. So 500 plates. And the size, min max, this refers to the size of the detail. So this is size 1 and this is size 2. Okay, so it kind of radiate outwards, size 3, size 4, and randomizes between the, so for example, if you have, this is the maximum, size 5, and this is size 1, it will randomize between these values to create the effect. Okay. Select loop inner region and inverse the selection, and then use the panel insets. We're not going to use subdivision. Wait a minute, I'm just gonna test out something. And then limited the result. Okay. Don't use subdivision, and we're going to incorporate a random height or random depth. So this is the default depth, and this is the height is also depth, and it's added into the depth value as a random min max property. You can see here. And this is also pertaining to the, and the depth is also also function as height. Functions as height. Okay. 0.02. And let's increase the inner margin into 0.01 or 0.02 as well. And let's play around with the, I'm going to play around with the, I'm going to use, instead of clear, I'm going to use fill. So clear means that some faces will not be, or it's the way it insets the faces is less aggressive, and you have areas where the source mesh is not touched, and with fill it will use every space to create the plate inset. So we're going to use the fill in this case. So even offset is, in your version, is inset mode, and which is even and non-even. In the next update, which I already have, it is renamed to even offset, and the options are renamed to from even to and non-even to on and off. Okay, let's just look for the appropriate detail. We can use 1 here. So the tolerance here means that the face or the plate inset, when creating a face, can actually go around or wrap around the sharp edge like this. So for example, if I lower this to 0.5, the sharp edge or the plate insets cannot go past or wrap around the sharp edge. So you can see that there's cuts here. Kind of works like plate inset, random panels, and then using split or wrap in the cut method. Okay, um, save this so I can, if I mess up, I can go back to the original. Okay, data, a utility, I mean played in sets, and then play around with the detail. Let's look for something that, so for this, we're not going to, we're not modeling it for really close-up render, so we're modeling it for something like mid or far away range. So we're going to go to something like in this range and then try and manipulate the detail based on this range here. This is the depth and this is the thickness. Point 0.02 and oh no, not the depth. 0.01, 0.02, 0.04. Okay, that's good. So in this distance, and then let's look for faces, kind of like this one here, that has, if you use too much thickness, you can end up with like that. So let's try and avoid that. And 0.02. So before letting go of the redo panel and doing another action, look around the model, and if you see anything that you might want to change, press F9 to bring up the redo panel again, and then manipulate the properties. But first, I'm just gonna save this file. So comps assets. Okay, so that's good for this distance. So we're just trying to, you can add, after the operation, you can add your own, of course, your own details from the randomized result. Something like this. And that's too micro. Okay. And something like this. And here as well. Wait a minute. Okay. So this is mostly for concept art. And if you want to, you can use it for other things like games as well. You can use the you can use the destructive workflow using the addon and then try to create a base for a sci-fi asset and then just manually model it afterwards and using the result of the randomization as a starting point. Okay, so we can try and let's see if we can, okay, and also save a lot. Okay. When dealing with any random generators that deals with geometry, try and save a lot because you know you might accidentally use the operator on a uh, ultra high res, accidentally use it on a ultra high res selection, and then force your Blender will crash. Okay, let's try and create like 12 edge loop. Control R and then 1, 2, and then select the boundary edges and use select loop in origin. And let's try and use the plating sets and play around with the plating seed. We already have set the properties when we did this. And if you want to save it, plain set. If you want to save the property that you did here, if you want to use it on another blend scene, so plate inset, just press this, and then you can rename this to something like my preset 01. Okay. And when you click on this, it will show you the selection here, my preset 01. To remove it, you can select that preset, for example, this one, and I like that. Okay, this, oh, okay, this one, okay, this one, and then use the minus key, boom. And when you go here, it's gone. And you can just select another one or manually set a new value for the properties or restore operator defaults. Okay, play around with the plating seed and probably use 3 for the minimum. And again, we're going to use this distance. Okay, that's I think we can use this. So afterwards, you can remove certain edges that the details actually don't need. For example, this, and this. You can remove this because the structure doesn't need it to support itself. You can remove that. But for example, this one, can't remove that. It's needed for the structure here, and it's also needed. In this case, we don't want in guns. So if you don't want any in guns, don't remove that. So for this one, we can remove this. So not only would you look for any geometric distortions when trying to prepare the topology like this, you also need to look around for shading errors because sometimes when removing faces, you can have shading errors. Okay, we need this one. And we also need this one. Yeah, I think we're good. You can also do it here. But I think most of these are... Oh yeah, we can remove this. Okay, so you can economize the model when you finished modeling it. Let's put in some manual details. Okay. So this is good. So this is supposed to stick on surfaces. Cube. So when you use the asset browser, it's supposed to like stick on surfaces like that. So you can put it on your spaceship or your hard surface buildings or something. So, but we need to look at the origin. This is the origin point marked by the orange dot in based on my theme, Blender theme that I'm using. That's the orange dot right there that represents the origin. So when you rotate the object, it rotates from that using it as the pivot point. Okay, so we need it to, but when you stick it to surfaces like this, for example, shift face and then align rotation to target. Okay, and then there we go. Oh, okay. So that's the new snapping of Blender. That's good. But okay, so this operates. It's still kind of confusing, but so G B and then set it. Okay, so it's supposed to stick like that when using the asset browser, and so like that. So that's your kind of like your comms equipment. Okay, let's delete that. And let's try and shade this using the upcoming feature, which is the shading feature here. Append materials, and append materials, it will append the materials that I use or the grand shaders from a folder that is inserted into the folder of the main folder of the add-on. Okay. But first we're going to use random vertex color to uh, assign vertex color in this and use it as just a basic color for the diffuse of the shader. So first off, I have a preset here which BW, which means black and white. But if we use the operator as default, you can see there's can maximize the hue, the saturation, and the value. But we only want like um, black and white. So 0 for the and black and white 0. Yeah, 0 for min max of the saturation is both 0. Okay. And values, highest is 0.9 and minimum or lowest is points, something like 0.8 or 0.7. We don't need the. Okay, so there's no differentiation yet for the vertex color because this is one single object, and limit means that per object per object then means it means that for each object there will be a different vertex color. And we also have selection. So these are two different objects. If we use select, and also affect that. And if we use island, so island means if we create, I'm going to create random panels here. And let's get back to object shading. Okay. It means that inside the mesh, and the island means face islands or separated sets of faces that are not connected to the rest of the model. So those are the islands. So when we use vertex color and use islands, it's going to set different colors for those islands. So, but since we don't have any islands here, and we don't want to use selection or object, we're going to use sharp. What this does is mark sharp the edges based on an angle threshold. So, for example, like this, these edges will be marked sharp, and then the faces that are enclosed in those edges that are marked sharp will have basically different vertex color based on their enclosure. So it kind of goes like this: get sharp, and then mark sharp. So this face and this face, since they're separated by or enclosed by marked sharp edges, they will have a different set of color. So Control E, clear sharp. So the script does that, mark sharp those edges based on an angle threshold. So you can see sharp if the model is already using a sharp edges, you can use this by default, but if it doesn't, you can use the mark sharp here. Or it will automatically mark sharp the edges in edit mode and then assign different vertex colors to them. But you can see that it will remove those mark sharp edges after the operation. So what happens is you have a manually mark sharp edge here, but when you use the operator and use mark sharp, it will remove those mark sharp edges used by the operation and maintain the old mark sharp edges you set manually. Okay. And this feature will be in the next update. I forgot to mention, which is pretty close. I'm excited to share with you the shading feature. I think this will be a start of something good. Okay. Let's try and legit color this now. So 0.7 mark sharp. You can also dirty vertex color. And there's a bunch of stuff here. Settings. These settings directly mimic the settings you can see in vertex paint. Built-in bugs not found. What? Okay, vertex paints and paint dirty vertex color F9. So the settings here are the ones that you can see. The vertex color are the ones that you can see here. Blur strength, blur iteration, highlight, dirt only, normalize. So let's not use dirty vertex color in this case. By the way, the dirty vertex color does not work with in-gun structures. This will work better with quad faces that are evenly spaced and evenly spaced. The resolution also matters. So the more resolution you have, the more defined the vertex color is, and not as washed out. Okay, so this is the vertex color that we got. Okay, let's turn on HDRI. I will try and not to speak when the viewport is rendering because my noise cancellation software is tied into the GPU. So when the viewport is rendering and if I speak, my voice will break up. But sometimes I forget, so sorry about that if that happens. Okay, so we're going to append the shaders. I'm still going to modify this before rolling it out on the update. So that means that if you append this, its default settings will have changed in the update. So in this case, I haven't touched it, and it still mimics the same setup I'm using from the Grand Shader product. So append materials. So the append materials are grunge metal and grunge cloth. And we can select the model and use creative flow and assign material grunge metal. And this is the default setting. So this the default setting is a bit for something a bit larger than this. That's why the some of the details are too big, so we're going to edit that. So by default, I will not change this. By default, the color will be from the RGB node. And you would have, if you're using the vertex color technique, or you can use image texture here. So you can decide to use your own bit here, like image texture, or the vertex color we created earlier, which is named vertex color, and connect it here as the color. And then we're going to drive the factor using the color ramp. If you're using color or saturated colors for the vertex color, do not use color ramp. It will transform that to black and white. Okay. And that is just to give a subtle difference between each plating, a subtle color difference between its plating. Wait, I'm just gonna try and create some detail here. Okay. And then let's select this face, Control Shift X for creative flow. Add a vertex. Use this to add a material, since we're not going to use vertex color for the diffuse. Let's knock this off. Okay. And it's just for setting a new material, directly assigning it to faces. You can do it here, but you have to click on this icon and then select the faces and then click assign. But with this, those actions are compressed into a single button. Okay, change this to emit. Go to shader and use emission. And we're going to also use that here. You can just use assign here or assign material here. But since this is quicker, let's just use that. Okay. Next up, we're going to do is change the origin to the farthest vertex in the z-axis. So what we're going to do is select the model, and then extra set origin, and it's already set to the z-axis in the negative. So this is the negative z, and that's the positive. Set origin, positive tolerance. Tolerance means that um, the the amount of faces that's going to be selected for its average location based on the axis that you've selected here. So okay, and you can see the orange dot change its position. Set origin to this, to the farthest edge in the z-axis. And now when you rotate this, it's now rotating on the foot, on the quote unquote foot of the model. And okay, let's just, I'm going to make this shorter. I'm just going to append the model from my last attempts, or from what I did for Patreon. So let's just use these models here. Control C. When I found out about the control copy and paste in Blender, it was really good. Control C and then Control Shift O. Open the last file. Comps asset. Don't save. Control V, and they are too small compared to the. Okay, let's bring them up a bit and just apply their location. Okay, so it's the same. I built this using the same principle, modeling this, and they will be rendered in mid to far away range. You can see that. You can also, I think, use them like this. Or you can also render them close up. No problem. Look at that. All you need to increase the realism is with the texture. Okay. These are using their own textures. Light. Let's rename this to emit. These are using the texture from that file. So we're going to remove it and set the texture. Probably not. Wait. So let's just use the manually place it. I don't want to. The lights are selected selected faces. I don't want to reselect them. Okay, let's just use the grunge metal we're using for this sample file, or no, sample blend scene. Okay. And also probably for this one, just use the light because I like the color more, or the intensity. So you can see here that their origin has also been placed at their foot. So when you rotate them, you can uh, rotate them like that. So selecting all the models. Where is the 7? Okay. 7 is in the numpad. 7 is top. Control 7 is 7 is top view. Control 7 is bottom view. 1 is front. Control 1 is back. 3 is, I think, right. Control 3 is left. Okay. Save and then sort asset. We're going to sort this, and we're going to use it, sort it from the biggest to the smallest. Is that the biggest? Smallest. I think something's wrong with the code. Or wait, smallest. This should be the smallest, I think. The sort asset, grid array, smallest, increase the spacing in the x-axis. The step you can use to basically create columns, rows. But since we're dealing with 5 objects, it's gonna go like that. Smallest. Oh, yeah, it is smallest. It's just the active object is the smallest. Okay, so this is the biggest and to the smallest. It's it just happens that the object we selected is the smallest. Okay, stupid. But first, I'm going to remove this as assets. So control click on mark asset to remove them as assets. Okay, and then let's start over. Selecting all objects. And so again, this add-on will be in the next update of the creative bundle. So sort, I think we sorted this using the biggest, okay? And the name, so the name will be based on the sort order. So for example, antenna 1 or comms 1 will be this biggest object here. Then 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Name is comms. Description is comms model, 3D asset. Author is Blender Guppy. Tags is antenna, separated by commas, comms, cylinders. So this is what you will use to search for these objects in the asset browser. And clear tags, if you have assigned tags for these objects before, you can click on this toggle to clear them all. So clear tags, and okay. And right here in the outliner, you can see that, let me zoom in. We can zoom in. So comes 1, you can see the biggest object here comes 2, 3, 4, and 5. And this icon represents that they are, or indicates that they are now assets that you can use for the asset from the asset browser. So cube, let's just use this as our test object. So asset browser and user library. So we now have the antenna 1, antenna 2. The tags, where can we use the tag? Oh, here? Comms. There we go. Oh, comms. There we go. No, wait, where's the tag? Collection, file preferences, user. I think we can also use antenna. Yeah. Yeah, you can search for the tag using the search bar. Comms A. So when we drag this, look, there, since their origin point is in the situated in their foot, it means that they are standing on the surface you put them in. If, for example, our origin is in here, then when you drag this from the asset browser, it will position itself like that. So that's why we set it on the lowest vertices positioned in the, or the farthest vertices positioned in the negative z-axis right here. So, for example, this is your build sci-fi building, sci-fi ship, or sci-fi anything. You can just drag and drop your antenna. And the details actually look good. I'm surprised about that. Okay, the grunge metal. So I mean based on the distance. So far away, mid range, and close up, there's the details are still viable. So let's try and render this. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I've also edited track lights a bit and made the drawing code work. I forgot about that for Blender 4.0, and also separated the defaults into its own submenu here, and also fix the code to match the current Python changes. So that's good. And in the next update, sort asset will be added for you to quickly do what I do. So if you have a free time, you're not doing anything, you can model lights, low to mid poly 3D assets using the Creative Bundle add-ons, and then quickly sort them in grid arrangements and mark them as assets. So what is the grid arrangement? Okay, so you can just you can just sort the models chaotically inside Blender and assign it in the asset browser, and then not ever open it up again. So the arrangement doesn't really matter. Okay, so just in case you are, so I made the grid array operator, which also works with marks as asset, because if you look at my store, there's a canister pack set or canister set product there, and there's 20 models using the grand shaders as well. So I used this add-on to arrange them in a grid arrangement, and also this for the mark as asset functionality. So the product will look nice, and the models, when the customer opens it, is neatly arranged. It's not going to be like that. If you're just gonna use the blend scene for the 3D assets, maybe the arrangement will not matter. But if you're into something like having your models arranged like that, then it's good. And also, I will remember when you say Blender and when you open up a Blender when you open up the file browser in Blender and look at the icons of the blend file, and you can see that there's a little preview there of the file inside. So that preview matches, if you notice it, matches the one that you have in your camera. So for example, if I want the preview to be like this, I want to set my camera like that. Okay, let's go to camera. Okay, so set it like that. once you save it and look at the open it up in Blender and look at the icon, you can see that the preview matches what you got in the camera. So what this is why it's really cool to arrange them like this. So you know immediately when looking at the thumbnail of the file, immediately what the blend file has inside them. So you can just set them like that, and you didn't even have to leave it in the camera view. Once you set it, the preview thumbnail will look like this in the file browser. When viewing it inside Blender, not Windows, of course, or any operating system. So once you set it in the camera like that, you can leave it and then just ordinarily save Blender and then quit. But when you look at the preview thumbnail, you can see it like that. So it's good. So grid arrangement, good for this. If you have OCDs for arranging your models like that, then this will help you. And if you are modeling products or 3D assets for a store to sell online, this is really good for arranging those products in a grid arrangement. Okay, so this is why it is here. Okay, so yeah, and this is our comms models. And they look really good once they're used for what they're intended for. Look at that. You can have a wall here that, and there's, for example, wall here, and there's a bazaar here, a bunch of alien stores and like that. And when you have you can stick it on the wall, can stick this on the wall or on the ground, and you have this. Okay, so I think that's it for this video. And again, if you have any question, use the comment sections. Use the comment section below or the links in the description. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.